So, movement is medicine. It's as simple as that. It's a physical medicine that, when dosed appropriately, both in terms of frequency and the right type, is going to yield you some amazing benefits for how your body feels and how it performs. And so, if you're wanting to learn how you can start to move more and strategies that you can use in order to make these benefits, then stick around and watch this video. Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Now today we're going over 5 really great tips that you can use if you want to start to learn how you can move more and implement some great strategies in order to start feeling better and taking back control of your health and your movement. Now, if you haven't met me before, my name's Jim, and on this channel I post all sorts of stuff pertaining to the world of physical therapy. So if you want to learn how to move better, how to feel better, and if you are interested in about anything pertaining to physical therapy, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button. So what's the big deal about movement anyways? I mean, why I'm actually taking time sitting down here making a video on a concept as simple as learning how to move more. And while there's actually a number of reasons why, but the main reason is simply because people who move more tend to experience a much higher quality of life. Now, when I talk about quality of life, that's really referring to a number of different things, but we can look at quality of life in terms of not only how long you live, but how long you live without being in pain, because pain sucks to be in, or also, again, the fact that if you're moving well, you can tend to do the activities or more of the activities that you want to do than your fellow peers who aren't moving as much. So you got less pain, you got less dysfunction, you got more independence throughout your life, and then again, just moving just tends to feel really good. Even light, unstructured exercise does a lot of great things for boosting mood and boosting cognitive performance. So that's the whole reason why I'm just creating a video today on helping others understand not only the importance of learning how to move more, but also how to actually take some tips and really just generate a lifestyle that's going to be more favorable for you. So the 5 tips in this video are aimed more so at beginners, individuals who are just kind of wanting to explore how they can start to even think about incorporating more movement into their daily lifestyle. But these tips will also work really good if you are someone who is more in the intermediate or the advanced category in terms of someone who's already moving a lot more than the average person. So if you happen to fall into the category of intermediate or advanced, simply take these concepts and just ask yourself how you can apply them to what you're already doing now, and again, continue to tweak them and refine them to meet your own needs. All right, so now that I got that little blurb out of the way, I'm gonna jump right into the 5 tips, and as I go through them, just simply ask yourself where you see yourself being able to take these tips and start to implement them into your daily lifestyle right away. All right, tip number 1. Moving more does not mean that things have to be physically exhausting. So this is a great tip to start out with right away, because many people are in this mindset of, well, if I'm gonna start moving more, and whether it's for losing weight or just feeling better and getting rid of aches and pains, a lot of times people make the mistake of thinking that things have to be physically exhausting in order to make positive changes. Now, break out of this mindset, because that's not the case at all. There is, of course, numerous times and reasons as to why we want to have physical regimens, kind of make things physically exhausting, relatively speaking. But when it comes to just starting out and just learning how to move more, it doesn't need to be physically exhausting. Now, the benefits of knowing that is that it should be a little bit less intimidating to start, but also it fosters this kind of mindset of remembering that it's small things done in consistent manners over a sustainable basis that wind up making great changes. Now, a great concept that really nails this down for us is a phenomenon called NEPA. Now, NEPA stands for non-exercise physical activity. It's sometimes also called NEAT, which is NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. They can be a little bit different, but by and large, for the sake of this video, we're going to consider them the same thing. So NEPA is essentially non-structured, non-organized, non-planned physical activities that we do on our day-to-day basis. So here we're excluding formal, organized fitness regimens, going to the gym, running on a treadmill, workout regimens. Those are all good, but just with NEPA alone, what we're doing here is we're seeing that there are ways that we can increase our daily energy expenditure just by simply moving more. So a lot of times as we try and dive into a more movement-oriented, physical activity-oriented lifestyle, we fail to remember that actually just even these little movements that we do in our day-to-day activities really add up in terms of keeping us moving well, helping us to stay out of pain, and again, helping us to burn off more energy for, again, maybe a healthier particular weight that we're trying to achieve, or simply just to feel better overall. So a strategy that you can ask yourself here is, how do you start to move more in your day-to-day lifestyle activities that you do? Now, there's a million different strategies that you can use to start incorporating more physical activity into your just kind of everyday lifestyle. And just as a couple of quick examples, we can think of things like parking a little bit further away in a parking lot and then walking up to the store, and then having to walk back to the car as well too, rather than getting the closest parking spot available. Now, of course, that's predicated on the fact that you don't have major physical disabilities and you're fully abled. But if you're someone who's not having a lot of pain or just doesn't have major mobility issues, a simple little strategy like that can really add up, because stuff like that we tend to do on a day-to-day basis. Another strategy could be that if you work on the 4th or 5th floor of a building or higher up, well, maybe you don't have the physical capacity to walk up all the flights of stairs rather than take the elevator, but you could simply walk up one flight of stairs and then catch your elevator. Maybe as you start to find that you're feeling better and getting a little bit more fit and a little bit more kind of used to moving more throughout the day, then you take 2 flights of stairs before you catch the elevator for the rest of the way up. So the point here is that there's just simply a million ways that you can continue to move around in a non-structured, non-organized manner, because these little extra bits of movement on a day-to-day basis will add up in all sorts of ways. So remember, as you start to move more in your day-to-day lifestyle, it's not about making things physically exhausting and physically taxing and tiring you out. Again, there's times and places where that can be a good thing, but for the beginner who just wants to start to learn how to move more and feel better, then just doing this in a manner where it's not exhausting is going to yield some amazing benefits for you, both physically and mentally as well. All right, so I'm going to piggyback off of tip number 1 into number 2. And tip number 2 here is to remember that moving more does not mean that it has to be done in a regimented manner. So in addition to people thinking that they oftentimes have to really physically tire themselves out in order to make good improvements in their health and their movement abilities and their overall wellness, another mistake that people make that's closely associated with that is thinking that they have to do everything in a very regimented, program-based oriented type of order. And that's simply not the case. So what this all comes down to here as a beginner is the fact that the more you just kind of start to dabble in this world, the less structured things have to be. Now, if you're someone who's incredibly advanced and you have high levels of fitness goals and aspirations that you want to achieve, well, the more specific your goals and your aspirations become, ultimately then yes, the more specific and regimented things might need to be. But as a beginner who's just starting out, there's no need to make anything regimented right off the bat, especially if you feel that this is going to be confusing or intimidating in any sort of manner, because a lot of times people actually fall off the wagon because they already have enough of a regimentation in their day-to-day lives. And so just putting one more regimented thing into their lifestyle is just simply not what most people are after. So what does this mean? Well, it means as a beginner, your job is just to move around in ways that are fun, ways that are engaging and are even meaningful to you. So this can be things you're going to partake in physical activities or different types of pursuits that just wind up kind of almost distracting you from the rest of the world. And again, don't have you to necessarily focus on this kind of individualized, regimented way of doing things. Again, we're not saying that that's a bad thing, but for most beginners who are just really starting to explore this whole world of wanting to make lifestyle changes and how to move more and move better and feel better as a result, well, then there's no need to necessarily complicate it with excessive amounts of regimentation. All right, tip number 3, don't overcomplicate it. Now that sounds very similar to tip number 2, but it's unique enough and different enough that it warrants talking about as its own individual tip. So when we're talking about overcomplicating things, what we're saying is, am I doing the right amount? Am I doing too much of one thing? Am I doing too little? Do I need to do this more? Do I need to do this less? Beginners tend to oftentimes kind of have this phenomenon of what we call analysis paralysis. And that's simply starting to kind of wonder about all these different variables that go into the lifestyle changes that we're after, that we wind up thinking so much that we just wind up falling off the wagon and not sticking with the activities that we want to do. And so you as the beginner, the great thing to do here is just to simply keep it simple, shut your mind off, and just find ways to move that feel good for you. So don't be afraid to shut your mind off, simply move. You think enough throughout the day with all the other things going on in life. So when you're just doing a little bit more movement, give your brain permission to shut off and just have some fun moving around. And leading into tip number 4 with that is to find movements and activities that you enjoy. So this is important for a number of different reasons. Obviously, if you enjoy something, it's going to be more enjoyable as you do it, but you're going to wind up sticking with it more because you find some type of meaning or joy in that physical activity or that movement or that pursuit that you're going after. So make it enjoyable. And again, as a beginner, as long as it's enjoyable and you're feeling good doing it, we don't have to worry too much about whether it's necessarily right or wrong for you. As you get more advanced and you really start to kind of dive into the world of setting more specific goals, then you can start to kind of really hone in on things a bit more. But as the beginner here, you have free license to simply do things that you enjoy and do them to the extent that help make you feel better. So I like to think of this as a road trip. So if I'm going on a road trip and I just want to see a whole bunch of sights and sounds along the way, which is like half the fun of a road trip, then again, I'm not too fixated on the exact route that I take in order to go from point A to point B. The whole objective on a road trip is for me to have fun and do the things that I want to do as I move from A to B. And as a beginner in the world of learning how to move around in order to feel better, think of it in that same way. Again, you still can go from A to B and take a million different routes to get there, because getting there is going to be the enjoyable part for you, where you have a freedom to explore as you move in that direction. And yes, if you're going to get more specific with your goals, then you start to have less kind of options available on that route if you do want to meet those goals. But here as a beginner, man, just have fun going all over different roads and do movements and activities that you enjoy, because you're going to be able to do things consistently that way because you enjoy it, but it's going to be sustainable, which is also incredibly important, and it's going to foster that positive behavioral change that you're after in order to kind of keep you moving in the directions you want to go. All right, and tip number 5, one of my favorite tips here, is to simply start incorporating movement snacks in your everyday pursuits. So a movement snack, if you're not familiar with the term, is simply a strategy that we can use in which we incorporate little bits of movement here and there, kind of snacking on movement as we go through our daily pursuits. So just like a full meal is a meal in which we sit down and we take time to actually focus on the meal and kind of eat it bit by bit, that full meal is kind of like a workout where we actually take a structured, regimented time out of our day to go through the physical kind of movements and activities and exercises that we do as kind of a block of our day. But snacking on movement is no different than if you're snacking on, well, snacks as you're sitting in front of the TV or you're sitting in front of the computer. So a movement snack is just a way where you can just do movements that feel good, just 2 seconds, 5 seconds worth here and there, as a way just to kind of make sure that you're moving around more throughout the day. So great examples tend to be strategies such as every 10 minutes, if you're sitting down at your computer desk, you stand up and you do just a couple of quick, easy stretches that feel good for you. This can be things where you're kind of stretching your legs or your arms, or just kind of what I call unraveling, just easy, good movements that feel good. Now, by themselves, we're not really expecting major changes from those little things, but it's creating not only a behavioral mindset of always finding little ways to move around, but also to make sure we're not staying in one position for too long. And so these movement snacks are great because they kind of keep blood moving, they keep the joints moving, both of which tend to help us just kind of feel better as we go through our daily pursuits. And again, it's not structured in any sort of way. It's just doing just 10 seconds worth or a handful of repetitions here and there of an exercise or a movement that feels good for you. So don't be afraid to use movement snacks whenever you want. I use them all the time. If I've been sitting down at the desk a little bit too much, I stand up, I do a couple of my favorite feel-good movements, kind of snack on those for a little bit. Sometimes if I'm just sitting in the car and I'm waiting at a red light, I'll just kind of just wiggle around a little bit just to kind of start to get myself feeling better and a little bit loosened up. Doesn't have to be anything regimented or specific, just find things that feel good for you and snack on those movements. So those are the 5 tips. Hopefully you got something out of them. Again, they're nothing more than the tip of the iceberg, and I'm hoping that what you are seeing here is that they're just kind of ways in which you can start to incorporate more movement in your day-to-day lifestyle without disrupting anything or making this feel like this is a big chore or a big undertaking. Again, these little tips, when all done together, start to add up and create some amazing changes, both from a physical standpoint, but also from a behavioral standpoint as well. Now, if you have any other tips that you think would be great to share with others to help them get started on their journeys of moving better and feeling better, please leave them in the comment section below. I would love to read them and kind of hear what they are. It'd be great for us to kind of build up a whole bunch of tips together to help others who want to learn how to start moving more and to feel better. And as always, if you did enjoy this video, please feel free to smash that like button, or again, you can just tap it if you want to be kind to it, not beat it up too much, but a like would mean a lot to me. And again, if you want to learn more about the world of physical therapy, how to move better, how to feel better. And again, if you're someone who's interested in professional physical therapy or you're a physical therapy student, please feel free to subscribe so that you can get all the content that I'm putting out there. So that's it for the video. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all staying safe. Make sure that you guys keep looking after yourselves, keep looking after one another, keep making great things happen, and I'll see you in the next video.